President Trump spoke last night in Phoenix, and in what has become a routine display, thousands of left-wing protesters showed up. Some of them decided to riot. Watch this. Ouch, that now famous piece of tape. Well, demonstrators threw bottles, rocks, and tear gas canisters at the police and wreaked some havoc on the streets of Phoenix. It's pretty violent behavior, yet both Reuters and the Washington Post described that group as, quote, peace activists. Evidently, war is now peace. That's not too surprising, since the Post already believes that ignorance is strength and freedom is slavery. You'll recognize those as Orwellian slogans that are now somehow real in America. Left-wing protesters in Arizona made it clear they despise Donald Trump, but they still like him more than many members of the press do. They flailed about in their attempts to one-up one another's rhetoric last night. Watch this.
And I think it's one of the more morally shocking things that Trump has done, which is saying something, is he's basically going there in the hopes of starting a riot.
The only defensible explanation is if he is not mentally well. Because if he is, then he is just such an incredible, self-centered, narcissistic, unfit jerk.
He has given oxygen to racists. He hasn't really said anything, denounced the alt-right. He talked about the KKK and whatever. He hasn't really done that. He is clearly trying to ignite a civil war in this country. He has not tamped down race.
I kind of like Don Lemon. How could you not? But igniting civil war? Step back from the ledge, Don. You're getting close. Newt Gingrich is an author, thinker, Trump advisor, former Speaker of the House, of course, and he joins us in the studio tonight. Mr. Speaker, igniting a civil war, I mean, how seriously should we take rhetoric like that?
I think maybe you and I disagree. I think very seriously.
Okay.
I think Prager did a piece about 3 months ago on America's second civil war, arguing that what you're seeing with Antifa, what you're seeing on college campuses, what you're seeing to some extent in the bureaucracy is a real division of the country. You just had the former director of national intelligence explain that he thinks Trump may not be mentally stable enough to be president.
This is the one who lied to Congress about spying on Americans?
No, sadly, I knew Clapper back when he was a normal military guy before he went off the deep end. But, I mean, he clearly spun out in a way. But you've had these kind of things going on. And so I think the gap is getting wider. I think that the chaos, what happened to the left is at 8 o'clock in the evening, Hillary was going to break the glass ceiling, and at 11 o'clock in the evening, Donald J. Trump was going to be president. And the hard left has never recovered. It's a great trauma that they have never recovered from. And they're now seeing their world starting to be taken apart. I mean, instead of a left-wing judge, they get a right-wing judge. You know, instead of more regulations, they're getting less regulations. Instead of America being defeated and weak, America suddenly is getting stronger and beginning to win. I mean, it's horrifying if you're a real left-winger.
So I spent a lot of time on the show pointing out the hysteria and the absurdity of some of the claims on the left, and we'll continue to do that because it's unbelievable. On the other hand, just as an American, I don't want a civil war. I don't want this to happen. I don't want the country to be this divided. What's the solution to this?
Well, look, I think a very good friend of mine teaches Civil War history at Gettysburg College, and he has made the case that the parallels between Trump's inaugural and Lincoln's inaugural and the reactions to them are amazing. That if you go and you look at how South Carolina slave newspapers responded to Lincoln, and then you look at how the left responded to Trump, they're almost verbatim parallels. And, you know, I wish we could all sing Kumbaya and come together, but I don't think that's going to happen. And I think what's going to happen is the left is going to get crazier and crazier. You just did this piece I told you a while ago. I have to get this in. That I think we really ought to talk about ESPN as the extremely stupid political network. Yeah. Because what they do, no matter how Trump goes off the reservation, they find a way to be dumber. I mean, every time you get ready to think, well, you know, the president really shouldn't do X, they come along and do something crazy on the left.
It's almost like they're working for him. But how do you, I mean, is it inexorable, this move toward permanent division? What do you do about it? Because, I mean, if it ever, you know, societies that turn against themselves,
Right.
you know, it's bad.
Well, look, as a historian, my view is pretty straightforward. One side or the other wins. It's not like you come together with some grand compromise. One side or the other wins. Now, what's happening and what's driving the left crazy is the 8 years of Obama were a disaster at every level below the presidency. They lost state legislative seats, they lost governorships, they lost the House and Senate. And so the country, in response to seeing the left, began moving away from the left. And that process, I think, is continuing. And I think that that's part of why you see a Democratic Party that can't recover even when the president gives them opportunities. I think also they're faced with reality. For example, they're now having their new battle cry, which is Medicare for all. Sounds terrific if you say so. How would you like your taxes to go up 300%? And even Vermont has concluded they can't afford it.
Of course.
Now, if California thought they could, now California thinks they can't afford it. Yet you see Democrats nationally signing up for a program they can't possibly defend.
Are there any responsible Democrats at the national level?
Hard to know.
Because however disorganized the Trump people are, and it's very frustrating as someone who agrees with them on a lot to see how disorganized they are, you look at the alternative and you think those people shouldn't be near power at all. They're scary.
Well, and here's the problem. There are a lot of individual Democrats who I respect, and if I'm talking to them over lunch or if I have a cup of coffee with them, one-on-one they're terrific. Then they go back in the Democratic caucus. And they're not allowed to be normal.
Yeah, no room for moderation.
They suddenly go, well, I guess I really have to be this person. And you saw this with Tim Kaine, you know, when he got to be the vice presidential nominee, whatever he used to believe, he didn't quite believe because now he had to believe what you have to believe to be the Democratic vice president nominee.
He became a hater, and it was sad to watch.
And he's a much better guy.
No, I know he is. I know he is. It was depressing. Mr. Speaker, thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you.
You didn't make me feel better.
Sorry.
I appreciate it, though.